Welcome, everyone. It's time for the Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit. So, Devin, why don't you start the recording and we'll officially begin. Oh, I see we need to admit. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Henry DeVries. Welcome to the Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit. So, the year was 2015. The place was Chicago, Illinois. And let's meet Craig Lauder. Craig Lauder is a sales consultant, does a good job, but ran into a little undeserved misfortune in that he had more clients than he could handle. That sounds like a good thing, but really he was at a crossroads because he had maxed out on his business. He had more time. He was running ragged. He was in the sweet spot. He was making somewhere between 100 and 400,000. That's what we call the sweet spot for a independent consultant. But he was frustrated because he'd maxed out his time and it was burning him out. And that's when he attended the Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit in Chicago. That's when we did these live, when we were able to travel. We haven't flown on an airplane for over a year and done these events, but we've taken them to Zoominar. But back in the day, we were in the suburbs of Chicago out near O'Hare, and Craig came in for 3 hours and I told him how to market with a book, not market a book. That's a good subject, but that's not my subject. I'm the author of the book, Marketing with a Book. Hi, I'm Henry DeVries. I run a company called Indie Books International. We work with independent consultants who want to attract high-paying clients by marketing with a book and a speech. And in the last 10 years, in fact, I have helped ghostwrite, edit, publish more than 300 business books, including my international bestseller from McGraw-Hill, How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett, now in Chinese. Consultants report as if when they work with me, what they get is more impact and influence. And that's what it's about. Now, on a personal note, I'm a baseball nut. I have visited 44 out of 46 possible Major League Baseball parks, and I have 2 to go before I touch them all. Now, Craig and I have baseball in common. He's a big baseball fan. But more than that, what we had in common was a love for helping clients, speaking, and he hadn't written a book yet. And after attending the summit and meeting with me, he said, I need to do this book. I said, what's the dream, Craig? And he says, the dream is if somehow I could increase revenues by 25%. So I said, it's not going to be easy. There's work that needs to be done, but he was willing to roll up his sleeves. Together, we strategized what the book could be. We came up with the title, Smooth Selling Forever, because as a consultant, he was helping small businesses create predictable revenue growth, where it wasn't hope and pray, that he put systems in place. But more important, he had a hidden asset. Many consultants I work with, they have this hidden asset. They don't know about it, and I help them mine it. He had defining stories. They were his stories and his alone. He had many stories of people who had struggled until they met him. He helped them create a smooth selling system that got their businesses over the hump. And I said, that's your hidden asset. Some people call it your parlor trick. Some people call it your magic trick. You've got one. And he had stories of how it worked. And he could tell these stories in under 2 minutes if he had to, and that would build credibility. Well, we took those stories and we put them into the book. And overall, I have to tell you, he invested a year with me, and then all told over a couple of years, $20,000 in getting the book written, helping the book published, promoting the book, buying copies of the book to give away. Well, what happened? Well, as a result of it, he was getting higher conversion rates. He was able to charge more money. An expert with a book can charge more money, especially for speaking. An expert with a book can charge in the $5,000 to $10,000 range for a workshop or a keynote. he he was able to, he said he became more stickier to clients. They really liked him more. They would come into meetings with a dog-eared copy of his book and post-it notes. This might happen to you one day. And they go, Craig, on page 76, you said, Craig, refresh my memory, like we've memorized our book. But they would talk to him about the book. He was also able to do more one-to-many trainings. So he leveraged his time with that. Revenues increased 35% when he looked at his P&L statement. And that was 3 years running. He kept increasing it. And his return on investment, he says 10x. In other words, 1,000%. He got 10 times the 20,000 he put into this, more than he would have gotten from it. Best of all, instead of being maxed out and hitting the ceiling, he added several lucrative revenue streams of training and speaking, and his revenue per hour also grew. I mean, Craig measures everything. That's part of his system, is he helps people measure everything. What gets measured gets managed, is the old saying. And in sales, that's so true. And it's just not bottom line revenue. There's steps along the way. That was his smooth selling process to make it smooth for people. And now he says the thing he gets that's even more valuable than the increased revenue is the more time to his life to enjoy things, including his wife and family. Okay, that's what this is about today. We're gonna share some stories. Some guests have come on, and I want to hear your stories. There's one story I need to get on here right away, because I begged him if he could just come on for the start of this. I know he's got a lot going on, and that's David Goldman. David is someone I worked with. David, thanks for coming today. I'd like to turn the talking stick over to you and tell them about your journey to become an author.
Well, thank you, Henry, and thanks for asking me to come on today. So I am David Goldman, and I run a company. It's a communication consulting and coaching company called Goldman Organization, where I work with professionals who want to bring more business in without feeling like salespeople. The niche of that is attorneys, accountants, and financial advisors know that the key to their success is to bring in more business. They just don't want to do it like a Hollywood sales type of person. And I have a very non-toxic way of doing that. And I also work with executives who want to move up in their organization. And I think the whole key to that is communication, both how you communicate to others and how you communicate to yourself, especially in the area of self-talk. I have a tagline: if you can improve your self-talk, you can improve your life. So I have written a chapter on communication in a book called The Sales Coach, but it's not the same thing as writing a book. And just over a year ago, I published a book with Henry, with Indie Books, called The Road to Happiness: How to Get What You Really Want. And that's it right there behind me. As a result of working with me, clients report that they have more confidence, more clarity, more certainty, and more control in their communication, and that results in more money in their pocket, better relationships, and more fulfillment in their life. On a personal note, I'm a singer in an oldies rock and roll band. We haven't worked since the middle of March, but we are still we are still together. We are willing. As soon as the culture lets us be able, we'll be doing it again. And our latest markets were nursing homes. They love us. We go in. It's about an hour gig. We love it. So about a little over a year ago, I published this book, The Road to Happiness. And I can tell you there are three main things that it did for me. The first is almost a cliche, but I have to mention it. As Henry has mentioned with his other story, it is the best marketing tool I have ever had, without question. I send it to, I don't think I've invested $20,000 yet. I'm probably somewhere between 10 and 15,000, and I'm not quite tenfold, but I'm pretty close. And that Henry doesn't know that, I don't think yet. That's news to Henry. But surprisingly, this will come as no surprise to any of you. It's not through book sales. So I think I've sold maybe 100, maybe 120 books total in a year. I'm not standing on the top of a hill and waving that and being very proud of it. But however, it's not nothing. However, the main thing it's done for me is I've given it to 3 main markets. I give the book to people I want to work with. So if I identify a law firm, for instance, I'll send the book to the managing partner of the law firm with a note asking if there are any attorneys in the firm that he or she can pinpoint that need to learn how to bring more business in. The book is actually 9 stories of people that I've worked with who hired me to get a particular thing that they thought they wanted, and what they really got along the way was something even more valuable, which leads to their ultimate success. And it's easy to read, and it's easy to get the point, and so that works. So also send it to financial advisory firms, accounting firms, law firms. In my local area, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I send it regionally. Of course, with COVID, we can do this in a much broader area because we have this technology, the Zoom technology. But that's the first group that I send it to. The second group I send it to is people that I have worked with in the past. I've been doing this for 30 years, so I have a tremendous number of people in what Mark LeBlanc will call Sector 3, which are people that I've worked with in the past, but they're no longer under current agreement. And I send the book to them to re-engage. They're thrilled to get it. They're thrilled to hear from me. It always results in a conversation. The conversations sometimes result in their hiring me for a new agreement. And then the third area, and this came directly from Henry, thank you very much, and that is I send it to centers of influence, and I give it to them as a gift that they can give to their people that they would refer to me. So they're giving the book as a gift to their people. I'm actually giving it to the center of influence as a gift so that they can do that. They become the hero of that story. And then it makes the referral process that much easier. That's the first thing it did for me, is it's the best marketing tool ever. But I think there are 2 other things that happen that are even more important. First is it has me walk down the street differently when I used to walk down the street a lot. But it has me walking around my house differently because I'm an author. I'm a published author of a book with an ISBN number. And if you have published a book, I don't have to tell you what that means. If you haven't, I just got to tell you, on that day that book comes into your hands, you feel differently. And it gives you a sense of confidence, a sense of value that you could have a great sense of confidence and value anyway, but it gives you a sense of confidence and value that you didn't have before, because now you're an author in addition to whatever else you do. And the third thing, and it's the most important, and I'm coming in for a landing, Henry, believe it or not. The third thing is that I'm clearer about who I am and what I do for people than I've ever been before. And I'm able to articulate it in a way I don't think that 3 years ago I could have said what I said when I opened today with as much clarity and conviction as I did. And the one thing that I could point to that allowed me to do it is having written that book. Because in the process of telling those stories about those clients, I got very clear about what it is that I bring to the table and what it is I do for people. And I can't tell you the value of that. So, good idea to write a book? Absolutely. Good idea to market with it? Best thing I've ever done in terms of marketing my business. I'm available for any questions, Henry. Anybody?
David, thank you so much. You mentioned somebody in there, Mark LeBlanc. Maybe you could explain to them who Mark is. I know who he is since he's my business partner, but maybe you could just tell them a little bit about Mark.
Yeah, I met Mark about 25 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. I think it was 1995. And he's a member of the National Speakers Association. In fact, he's a past president of the organization, and is a business growth coach. In fact, the name of his business is Grow Your Business. And so, if I believe that coaching is a good thing for people, why wouldn't I have one? And so I hired him to be my coach. And I can't tell you how long. I hired him in 1995, and we had a relationship for probably 5 years. Changed my life without question. Made my coaching business a business instead of a hobby. My accountant, by the way, still thinks I have a very lucrative hobby, but that's more because I love what I do. It's funny. This morning I was talking to a client of mine, and she was telling me that she knows I still have to work. And I said, well, ironically, I don't. I just did some numbers this weekend. I no longer have to work. I still work because I love what I do. So in a way, it's still a hobby. But Mark helped me turn it into a business and helped me look at it like it's a business. And then we stayed friends for a long time, but I didn't have him under agreement until probably, I don't know, about 8 or 10 years ago. I hired him again, and I'll never not have him on board. So he's a coach who can help you grow your business and look at your business in a way that is way more business-like and gets you to, Henry's about to show you a book called Defining You, which is also behind me, and that he co-wrote with Mark. And it's, that's one of his claims to fame, is the defining statement, which is something that gets you to say who you are in a way that attracts business to you.
David, thank you so much. And I know you've got to run. I'm gonna trick you though. I was holding up Build Your Consulting Practice. Mark and I, another book Mark and I wrote, and has a lot of these teachings that David is talking about, and it's made a big difference. I wish I had this book 25 years ago when I was running a large advertising agency. We would have done so much better if I'd known what is in this book. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being with us today. I'm going to shift gears now. I wanted to go around the horn and give everybody, about a minute to give us a window into your world. I find people come to an event like this for a reason. I'd love to hear the reason. Some of you are here because Henry asked you to be here, and that's fine. You can share that. But I thought we'd go with Devin and David. David, just a little window now. You're going to get a little bigger window soon. And if we could start there. And then there's somebody that says meeting host. I thought that was me. So, but whoever you are, you'll introduce yourself the third. Okay, Devin, take it away.
Hi, my name is Devin DeVries, and I run the production and promotion department of Indie Books International. I work with consultants who want to attract more high-paying clients by marketing with a seminar.
Okay.
Thank you, Devin. And then David Hollingsworth.
Hi, I'm David Hollingsworth. Henry asked me to be here, and that's why I'm here. I'm an IT executive out on the East Coast and also building a speaking and writing business. And so hopefully I can share some of my experiences with the group today.
Okay. And then meeting host and Dawn.
Ironically, that's what my parents named me when I was born, so it's worked out really well. Actually, I'm Victoria Tucker, and I'm an organizational and talent architect. I've coached more than 20,000 individuals in about 100 different companies that they represent. I'm also the managing director of ZB Global, which is a digital firm. So we're thinkers and makers who apply digital transformation from simple to more sophisticated to help people achieve what they need to achieve.
It was great. Thank you, Victoria. Very nice. Dawn and then Tony. Yeah, Dawn, you're still on mute. There we go.
Sorry, I had to get my cursor over there. I've got 3 screens going right now. I kind of cut my teeth on hospitality, 20 years as executive director of HR, which taught me so much. And now I'm starting a business with a partner to start consulting. We're just in the ground up. And, I feel like things happen for a reason. And Henry, you dropped in to me just after I thought about writing a book for a long time, not sure what it would be. And I got a fortune cookie that says, you have a charming way with words. You should write a book. And then you popped into my inbox and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to this seminar. So that's why I'm here.
You don't know how many fortune cookies I've been putting that into.
It's another, wait, I need to write it down. It's another marketing tool.
Thank you, Dawn. Tony, welcome.
Trying to mute. There we go. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Tony Sousa. I work with I'm a partner at a small boutique leadership consultancy called Contemporary Leadership Advisors. I started my career actually in the HR space myself, so have played on the inside as well. We do anything that actually helps leaders be more effective. I share a passion for coaching with some of you on the phone here on the Zoom call here. I also do a lot of team effectiveness work. I will say I've had the privilege in terms of assessing leaders, probably over a couple of thousand across the world in a very deep dive biographical way. Where I get to really unpack them and figure out what their formulas for success are, which I quite love as well. So that's what I do. One of my partners was just mentioning that he was writing a book with someone that he partnered with, and I have always wanted to, and just thought, well, I'll take a listen to what you have to say and maybe pick up some tips around that. So, and I do apologize. I'm going to have to hop off about 10 minutes early. So I hope there's not, I don't want to be rude about that, but just want to let you know.
Well, that's too bad, Tony, because I save all the secrets for the last 10 minutes. So
exactly.
But there's going to be a recording of this up on our YouTube channel you can catch. And maybe we'll talk about you in the last 10 minutes. So I always say, you won't take it personally when you leave unless you mean it personally, and then put something in the chat box or whatever. So we'll be clear. Speaking of the chat box, and Devin, if you could do this for me, 2 offers here. If anyone would like a copy of that book, Build Your Consulting Practice, just send me an email to henry@indiebooksintl.com, and just the subject line can just be book, and I'll send you a complimentary copy of that. The second thing is, I didn't mention that I am a paid columnist, a weekly columnist for Forbes.com. I write about business development, and somebody like you, Tony, is in leadership. If you have a certain way that you market, I would consider writing about that. So if you want to send me an email and all the subject line has to say is Forbes, I'll send you an email back telling you about my column and how you could apply to be covered by me in Forbes.com. Of course, there's no cost to that. This is journalism. You have to earn it. So I have to think you have a good story to tell. You're gonna hear that theme over and over again. It's about your stories. And what are the stories? Because human brains are hardwired for stories, and that's what they want. So I've done a study over 20 years and found the top 10 ways to attract high-paying clients. And number one is a small-scale seminar. I'm going to have Devin talk about that in a moment. Number two is getting invited to speak. So what the two Davids are doing today are called the showcase. So you should be available to speak for 5 minutes or 3 days if it's your target rich environment, or if it's a favor to somebody who helps get you booked places. Number three is get published. So not only a book, but all the way down to your LinkedIn profile should have on a regular basis essays by you. You know, people, I think calling it a blog post is underwhelming. It should have essays on how your target group can solve their problems, your advice on problem solving. And the more generous you are in giving this advice away, the luckier you're going to get in attracting referrals, advocates, and clients. Now, there's other things you can do, networking, of course, and even there's new types of networking. One of the top 10 things that finishes sixth is managing your internet game plan, your social media, your YouTube. So these are all elements here. So some of this will be touched on. I believe in my heart of hearts, for an independent consultant, the number one marketing tool is a book. The number one marketing strategy is talking about the book. So it's a little typing, it's a little talking. And it's also writing and getting other people to write about your book. This is, we call it shining a spotlight. You shine a spotlight on the book, it reflects on your work. And that's how you can get more impact and influence. Well, I wanted to hear first from David, and then I'm going to hear from Devin about their books and this information on how it came to, how it's coming to be, and also content can be helpful here. So David Hollingsworth, you get the talking stick.
Thanks, Henry. I went through an experience back in 2004 that was pretty life-changing. And the short version of that is I had a motorcycle accident, fractured my spine, and before surgery, I was told that I might not walk again. In the hospital for 3 months, in rehab for a year, and eventually I was able to stand and walk a short distance. But over the next few years, I was able to build the team, which is the 10-year anniversary of the accident. I decided that I wanted to run a marathon. So in that marathons, I rode my bike to the top of Mount Mitchell, and I finished the Marine Corps Marathon. And when I was being interviewed by Comcast Sportsnet, they said, what was the hardest thing about running a marathon? And I thought back, was it the recovery? Was it the training? Was it the actual event? I said, no, the hardest thing was getting out the door every day. And when it came time to put this story in a book, that ended up being the title, is Get Out the Door. And I wrote it originally in 2019 and worked with a small press here in Northern Virginia, but it really wasn't focused on what the value was for the reader. So I got introduced to Henry, who helped me refocus the content on how everybody has obstacles they need to overcome, and everybody have goals they want to achieve. And that became the focus of the book. And we're just getting ready to launch. And the reception so far has been very positive. I've got a number of speaker and author endorsements, including my forward writer, who's Judy Carter, who's another one of Henry's authors. So it's been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the next stage is once the book is released.
Thank you, David. Hey, so I had a question for you. In that refocusing, that work is called a developmental editor. I helped you as a developmental editor. What was some of the tweaks that you did to bring the focus more around to the reader?
Well, it was, even though the book structure remained the same, it was really what was the key takeaway at the end of each section. What was the most important thing for the reader? So it was really focusing this, even though it was my story, it was taking the focus off of me and turning it back to the reader, say, well, what's in this for you? Why is this story useful in your life? And that's been a useful experience, not only for this book, but also the next one that I'm already working on.
So David, do you know that the most magical time for an author is not when they publish their first book, it's when they publish their second book? And the reason is, when people come up to you and say, David, I want to read your book, you can say, oh, which one?
Yeah.
So congratulations. We find that 80% of the books on Amazon, the author has multiple books.
Mm-hmm.
So there are probably 10 million authors on Amazon with 32 million books.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing multiple books. A thought leader is not one and done. And a lot of you want to be known as a thought leader. That's what's going to give you the more impact and influence. So a thought leader does two things. One, they speak regularly. And two, they get published regularly. Their thoughts are down in print regularly. So we'll talk about those. David, thank you so much. I want to go to Devin now. And Devin, why don't you tell everybody about the book you're writing and a little insight in how that could be helpful to them as they want to attract high-paying clients.
Thank you. So I am working on my upcoming book, which is Marketing with a Seminar. And this book is focused on kind of the strategy that for our business and for our clients' business has been a game changer. And that is hosting your own small scale seminar events. Of everything we do, this is what attracts the most clients to our business. And what I like about it too is that it's something that you can control. So it's a marketing tool that you have control over, as opposed to having somebody else book you to speak. So it puts it in your hands, and the return on the investment of your time and any marketing expenses comes back so quickly. So this is always the strategy we recommend to our clients to do first when they are looking to expand and grow their business. And I'll tell you a quick story to kind of illustrate the power of this strategy. So about, almost 7 years ago now, we were starting Indie Books International, and Henry knew, as a new player in the market, we needed to start to form some strategic partnerships in the industry so that we could better serve our clients and also help grow our business. So he had done some research and found the #1 public relations company for promoting authors and books was a firm out of Tampa, Florida called News and Experts. And he was able to get a call with their CEO, Marcia, and they had a really good, opening discussion about, well, maybe we could be a referral source for you. You could be a referral source for us. And it ended as those kind of conversations often do, with Marcia saying, well, this all sounds great. Why, the next time you're in Florida, why don't you come by the office and we'll talk more about it? So Henry hangs up the phone, comes out to me in my office and asks, when's the next open date on our calendar? I said, well, about 3 weeks from now, the beginning of September. I said, great, we're going to Florida. Okay. And he calls Marcia back up to say, oh, it just so happens I'm going to be in Orlando the first weekend of September. Maybe we can schedule a meeting. And they set that up. And then Marcia asked, what's bringing you to Florida? And Henry said, well, I'm putting on my Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit. So, well, that sounds very interesting. I'd love to attend that as well. So what Marcia didn't know at that point was that Henry made up a reason to be there. But now we're in a situation where we have 3 weeks to fill a room so we don't look like posers in front of this CEO we're trying to impress. But here's the problem. We're a Southern California-based company that's just starting. We know 0 people in that area of the country. So what were we going to do? And that's when we turned to LinkedIn as a marketing outreach tool. And this is really the secret to this strategy. And I love LinkedIn because all of that information we all put in our profiles is searchable. So that's what we started to do. And I developed a strategy to use LinkedIn to find our target audience members and to start to invite them to an event. So I'll pause the story there for just a second to share kind of a personal note about myself. I love that I can basically work anywhere in the world with Wi-Fi, but if I could have my office in one place, it would be on Main Street of Disneyland. I am a Disney nut. Henry knows this about me, and he also believes in setting goals with incentives. So he said, if you can get 12 people to sign up for this event in 3 weeks' time, I'll buy you a ticket to Disney World while we're in Florida. And to me, that was like challenge accepted. And I started to hit LinkedIn with this strategy. And I'll just give you the real quick kind of highlight of how it works. But if you want to know the details or see some sample messages, I have a white paper I'm happy to send you after. But basically, it's just a simple 2-step process. So when you go to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, you can add a note. And so all we would do is add kind of maybe 1 or 2 sentences. So a little connection point, some reason you're reaching out to them, and then just this line: would you be open to an invitation to be my guest at an event I'm hosting, in this case in Orlando? And that was it. It's a very kind of soft knock approach. If they accept the connection invite, then we would follow it up with a 1-paragraph invite to our no-cost workshop. It has a link to our website with more info. So it's purposefully not spammy. It is a genuine, generous offer of information. So it has to be helpful content to them. And it's not pushy. We would one message. We didn't keep hitting them over and over again. And that's it. And I found as many people, for us, consultants are our target. So as many within the 2-hour drive of Orlando, Florida as I could find in 3 weeks' time to invite. And in the end, I was able to get 15 people to sign up for the event. We met with Marcia. We had a great relationship that still goes to this day. She's done amazing things for our authors, getting them on radio, local TV, national TV spots. And she's also a referral source for us. One of our largest contracts to date was a referral from Marcia. But that's not even the best part of the story. We wrote business that covered all the costs of that entire trip before we even left our offices in California as a direct result of those LinkedIn messages. So we had a couple people receive the invite. One said, I can't make it that date, but I've been looking for a ghostwriter. Can we schedule a call to talk about that? And then the other one, and this is kind of an interesting side effect of this strategy, is that when you send them an invitation, they're going to say, well, who is this? And they're going to go and read your profile. And this gentleman had seen that Henry is a Vistage speaker. And he said, I've been trying to get into the Vistage speaking world. Can you coach me on that? And he bought 2 coaching sessions, which again, isn't even one of our main menu items, but it was a nice little extra. And again, that was all before the event. we know every event we do will lead to at least one client. Now, whether that person is directly in the room or referral, time will tell for that. But by giving your time and your generous information, the people that fit best with your service are going to be attracted to that, and they're going to find you. And that, of course, was a story when we did live events, but we have spent the last year doing all of the same strategies virtually. So I can tell you it works just the same. And really, it's just about finding the right who and the right topic for them. So know who you want to attract, and then what is the topic that will help them most, and take it from there. So if you're not doing these kind of events, I highly encourage you to start thinking about it. Like I said, we've traced back our clients, and probably over 85% of our clients can be traced back to this strategy. So it really is our #1 recommended tool. And with that, I will turn it back over to Henry.
Well, quick question. Did you get to go to Disney World?
Yes, we did. And it was awesome.
Thank you so much, Devin. I love. Sorry, I love the story, Devin, because I'm the nemesis villain character. I'm the boss that creates a problem for the employee, and the plucky employee with no budget has to figure it out, and the underdog wins in the end. So nice story. And I know you have others, and they go in the book, and we're demonstrating everything we want you to learn today. It's about books. It's also about speaking. So as Devin mentioned, we haven't been on an airplane doing these around the country. We had done 100, but in the last year, I know we have spoken at least 36 times on Zoominars, and we've also done podcasts. And we were, the business was 6 years old. We grew at 22% last year, despite the pandemic. And I don't want to credit it to some great genius that we have. I want to credit it to we were out there helping people. Our brand is generosity. Actually, generosity, family, and fun. We call the group of authors, such as the two Davids that spoke today, they're part of the family, a family of authors that help cross-promote each other, that help amplify each other's work. So while some people will write a book for you, or some people will publish a book for you, we are about what happens as a result of the book. We like to say that publishing the book is the starting line, not the finish line. And we stay involved, heavily involved for a year or more with all of our authors. And we're encouraging them to post for each other, review books for each other, invite each other to speak. And this is the real power of the synergy of that. So that's something. Now, if you have a question for Devin or me, feel free to put it in the chat, just write it there. Devin, I'm going to ask you to unmute, because we did have a question come in before, and I thought it'd be a good one for you to handle. I'm sorry, this is like a TV game show, and I haven't filled you in on the question before, so Devin's hearing it for the first time. But the question involves your take on social media. There's so many people out there on social media and saying so many things, and they're tweeting and they're on Instagram, and how do you make this work? Is there some magic formula for saying a few words that are magnetic and manageable, or is it something else? So Devin, what's your take?
Well, I would say, well, I guess I'll start with the quantity. So yes, there are just endless amounts of platforms. For us, we always recommend start with LinkedIn. They have positioned themselves as the social media network for business. So especially if you're getting started or you don't have a lot of time, that's the one I would recommend to kind of focus on and grow that one first, because that one also covers all businesses, all industries, everybody's there. And after that, if you want to expand into other channels, then it becomes a little bit of a question on where do your people like to hang out, because we'll find they're becoming very distinct groups. So, you know, not everybody is on Facebook and Twitter equally, or even, you know, Instagram or TikTok, depending on your brand. So you do have to do a little bit of research to find where your people like to hang out. I mean, I know Henry, for instance, Henry's audience are they're LinkedIn and Facebook. They love Facebook. But I work with some other clients that are more retail focused, and they're more Instagram. Their people are on Instagram. So you do have to do a little research to find, but everyone's on LinkedIn. So that would be my recommendation for starting. And then for what to post and how often to post, it's going to vary a little bit. I mean, you could easily spend a full-time job amount of time on that, but it's not going to give you the return you want. So I would say enough to be known. So you don't want to post so infrequently that people don't remember who you are, but you really don't need to be posting multiple times a day, or maybe even every day. Maybe every other day for a business audience is enough. And what I would say is it should be a mix of things. So do a little video. People really love video a lot more than reading text these days. But also, you know, maybe post a weekly article on LinkedIn. That'll give you something to talk about as well. Share a colleague or somebody you admire's post, which also helps kind of with the cross promotion element. So just kind of do a mix of types of posts and sharing, just to make your feed a little more interesting and dynamic for people. And the more that can be focused on them, the better. So sharing tips and helpful things like that, and even maybe just a few fun things. Because also I feel like what social media really can help is establishing you as a person. Because I feel like people, they want to work with people they like. So they want to know a little bit about you, you know, what makes you interesting, or what are your likes and things like that. So it's not that it's all the time, but it's enough that you are a person. You know, you want to show you do have a personality and things outside of work. So that would be my recommendation of just trying to keep a little bit of a balance there.
If I could just interject, if that's okay. Henry and Devin, thank you for that. My question, this is Victoria, by the way. My question had to do more with, because there's so much on social media, because we're inundated with everyone's opinion, what's the formula for landing on that nugget that people are going to buy it, or buy you as a speaker, or buy you as an author or a thought leader? What's the formula for defining that?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. And if you're interested, Victoria, well, you are, so I'll send it to you. I've written a monograph on this, and it's on sound bites and nuggets. So it's not enough just to do a book. You need to do sound bites so you can do interviews and briefly share things that amplify your work. So it doesn't happen by accident. Too many people write a book and they don't know what their main message is. You know, what is this book about in 12 words or less? Also, in different points when they get interviewed, they don't know how to give an answer in under 30 seconds. And that's what you need. So in that monograph, and if anyone else is interested, just ask for it. You know, email Henry, monograph, that'll be enough. And if you don't know, a monograph, this is a little tongue in cheek. I've read the complete Sherlock Holmes, and then I've read many books by people who are commenting on Sherlock Holmes. And in the Sherlock Holmes stories of Arthur Conan Doyle, he's always telling Watson about some monograph he's written. And, oh, there's a monograph I've just written, Watson, about the 273 different types of tobacco in the UK and how long the ashes will take to burn. You know, it's like, I thought, oh man, one day I'm going to write monographs and share them. So I have dozens and dozens of monographs I share with my authors on how to do all sorts of things. So this is the one about sound bites, and they're very important when you're doing interviews. And for some of my books, I would have the sound bites taped to the wall right in front of me. So when a reporter would call, I could instantly go into a sound bite and they'd say, wait a minute, let me write this down, because they're quotable, they're memorable, and they don't happen by accident. You need to do them on purpose.
Can I add one thing, Henry?
Please.
Yeah, and then I think this kind of gets back a little bit to what David was saying about knowing the audience and what the audience is interested in. Because it's true, if you're scrolling, they have themselves on their brain. So it has to speak to what is important to them. So you do have to kind of know, what's the problems that are like keeping them up at night? What are the topics that they would respond to? And you also kind of need to think in the words they use. So this comes up a lot when I'm helping people with their seminar topics, because we have a way of describing our businesses and the work we do, but they're often not the same words our clients use when they're talking about their challenges and what they want out of their business. So you do have to spend a little time getting in their heads to find the right words that will, attract them or spark their interest. Because you're right, you have seconds. You have seconds to grab their attention since there's so much. So a little work with that. And sometimes it's just asking clients that you've worked with, how would you describe your problem? What was it that you were looking for when you went to hire a consultant? And see what they say, and then try to work that language into things that you post and share.
Thank you, Devin. Let me tie it up with one last game changer. This is for Tony, who had to leave. So now I'm giving the game changer that he's missing. In addition to the small scale seminars, the game changer we have found is offering a no cost, no selling zone strategy call. So I'm making the offer to you, and I encourage you to offer it to your prospects. And the agenda for this call is to get clarity on 4 questions. 1, what is the goal for doing a book? What will a book do for you in a year to 3 years? Craig knew what the book could do for him. Number 2 is, what assets do you have? And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your intellectual property assets of, have you written blogs, articles, and also what are your defining stories? Those are your hidden assets. 3, what are the roadblocks? Now, for an independent consultant who's successful, roadblocks don't stop them. Roadblocks just slow you down. You've got to get around them, over them, under them, through them. So what are your roadblocks? Is it writing? Is it time? Is it money? What is the roadblock between you and being a successful author that has more impact and influence? And finally, others. How have others gotten from where you are right now to where you want to go? This agenda of goals, assets, roadblocks, and others is the same one you could use for your business when you offer these strategic calls. I'm making the offer to you. If you would like to have a book chat, that's what I call it, a book chat with me, and it's no selling, but I'll just help you get clarity on those 4 questions. It's one of my favorite things to do. Happy to do it for you. Just send an email to henry@indiebooksintl.com. Thank you for your attention today. Thank you for listening to our stories. Our stories matter, and more important, your stories matter. So best wishes with business development. And until we talk again, have a great week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.